We'll depend on it, I'll tell you.
And,
We appreciate your effort you put forward.
I'm not gonna need this page, that explains the big bills. So to start with, we left Labor Day weekend and went across Oklahoma and Kansas, across the Missouri River at Kansas City, over into Missouri, and we followed the Missouri River, which was Lewis Clark. I mean, you never saw so much Lewis and Clark stuff in your life.
Oh, my goodness.
We followed it up to the Iowa line and all the way up into South Dakota. We followed the Missouri River, and it was a beautiful drive. I mean, it was really something. Just this side of Sioux City, South Dakota, or just the other side. The Missouri River turns and goes west until it gets about halfway across South Dakota, and then it turns back north and goes up through Bismark, North Dakota. So Bismark, North Dakota is not only a lot of Native American, it's a lot of Lewis and Clark also. And and we got a couple of little brochures that we picked up on the Lewis and Clark, if anybody wanted to look at them. And we got up to Fargo, North Dakota, which half of Fargo is in Minnesota. It's right on the line. We turned west, and we went over as far as, well, probably about, I'm going to say 80, 100 miles. And there's a national fish hatchery. So we stopped at the fish hatchery, which really wasn't open because that was the wrong time of year. They had all their tanks drained and everything. They had a glass case. Now, I've had this rock over 40 years, and I have never been able to find out where it came from or what the purpose was. They had 2 of these in a glass case. They knew absolutely nothing about them. They could tell you anything about fish, and they don't even know where their rocks came from, but they had 2 of these in their case. So, anyway, that was an experience. We went on down to Jamestown, which has a frontier village, and I've got a picture of it in this DVD. They moved most of the buildings in, and it's like an old-time town. Got the dentist and the saloon, and I mean, it's got everything, and it's really neat. And we were lucky because we got there when they first opened. It was still a little hazy, foggy. It was Wednesday morning. And in fact, there was very few people around. That's where the National Buffalo Museum is. And we went to the Buffalo Museum. There's a lot of Native American, but if anything you ever wanted to know about a buffalo, you can find there. And that's where the white buffalo is. We talked to one lady that worked there 5 years, and she had never seen the white buffalo. And most of the people, due to the terrain, they said that the bulls are very protective, and they keep her hidden down. But she happened to, she's about a quarter mile away, a little white speck about like that, and I just saw the white speck and used a telephoto on my camera and zoomed in, and man, there she was, and she had a calf. Well, my camera's got optical, which goes so far, then it goes to digital. But when you bring a buffalo up to fill the whole screen at a quarter of a mile, and I didn't have my tripod with me. And I probably took 150 pictures. Some of them I got the head, some of them I got her feet. I mean, I did everything, leaned on the truck and everything, trying to steady. I did get some good pictures. That is also the home of the world's largest buffalo. It's called Buffalo Thunder. And that whole area there is pretty well dedicated to buffaloes. The buffalo, yes, we got that. Yeah, you can pass that. And it's a steel and concrete buffalo, which is 46 feet long, 26 feet high, 14 feet wide, and weighs 60 tons. That's 120,000 pounds. And I got some pictures of Ellie standing by the front leg, which she come up to about the knee. And that's also on the slide. Let's see. Yeah. While I was taking the pictures, somewhere over to the side, there was a loud noise. And all of a sudden, there was about 5 or 6 brown buffaloes come up, and they herded her down into, and that's the last we saw of her. But I did get some real good pictures, and I'd give anything if this thing was working, because I know you would love to see them pictures. And I mean, she is Snow White, and that calf is brown. It's nursing, and it was really a sight to behold.
Of course, she's a true albino. It's the only one that they know of that's but she is an albino, which she has blue eyes, I believe.
They got her from Michigan in, I think it was 1996. Now, don't hold me to these dates, but she had 5 calves. The first 4 was brown, the second one was pure white, or the 5th one was pure white. And you'll have to forgive me, because after you pass 74 years old, your memory's not as good. But I think she had another one, and she was buffalo.
Do you want her name?
Yeah.
White Cloud. White Cloud.
White, yeah, she was White Cloud. And they named the first white calf. She had 2 white calves. And anyway, they were all named. But it was just unreal, man. I was just mesmerized standing there watching her through the camera. Of course, without binoculars or camera, all you could see is a little white dot out there. And that's probably why not many people saw her, because she never come in close. And one of the ladies, now several of those buildings in the frontier village, they were just opening up, and they had shops and all in them. And one lady in the shop said that she'd worked there 5 years. She had never seen the white buffalo. And I showed her a couple of pictures. She said, "So when did you get them?" And I said, "A few minutes ago." But she's ready to run out there, and she wanted to see the white buffalo. It's too late.
That's amazing how protective they are over.
They better too big down the tunnel.
Anyway, they had the frontier village, and we stopped Wednesday night. We had the travel trailer, and got up Thursday morning, and we got to Bismark and the United Tribes Technical College about noon. For a couple of months before, I had corresponded with Etta Duran, who was kind of running that up there, and she was at the gate, so we got to meet her, and I got pictures of the campground. It's the whole campus of the college, was the campground. But when we got there was probably, I'm gonna say 300 trailers already set up. And we got set up, and Thursday evening at the 7 o'clock, they had their,
The grand entry.
the first grand entry. And that was a sight to behold. And Thursday evening at the powwow, they had the grand entry, and it was very impressive. And then they had probably an hour and a half of speeches and introductions, all the people involved, and all the dignitaries, and there was 127 different tribes represented. There was over 1,600 dancers. And the highest number I saw was, I think it was 1,619. And Thursday evening, after the opening ceremony and the speeches and Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem, everything, it was just free. I guess you'd call it, it almost looked like a free-for-all. It was free dancing. There was no judging or anything, and everybody was out there just doing their thing. And it was one of the wildest, most colorful things you ever saw in your life. I mean, it was really something to see. Because it wasn't choreographed. Now, starting Friday, that's when brought back some of these, and this is in the middle. It gives gives the programs and tells the times and what dances they were doing, and so each dance had a separate time, and they were judged on it.
They also had a drum contest that went on for 4 days. Different players.
You talk about some drummers, man, I'll tell you what, them guys was good. And so, anyway, that was Thursday night. We got to bed kind of late. We got up Friday morning, and we went into Bismark to the, did you give that away? Yeah, you did. Oh, here's them. Here's the story of that white buffalo. They kind of limited, they give, they were kind of chintzy, you couldn't get many extra things.
We went to the North Dakota Heritage Center and State Museum.
Okay, this is the one I was looking for.
The one I gave away.
They've got a new museum, which actually their grand opening wasn't until about the middle of November. We were there about 2 months. They were still working. They had 4 big main sections, and one section wasn't open yet. And 2 sections was on, it started back when virtually the caveman, the history of the Native Americans. And they had anything and everything about Native Americans. And I got, let's see, where is that? Where's the one that's got that one that has a rock on it?
It's
Over there.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Going through that museum, it was worth the trip, just in that museum. For one thing, that was one of the happiest days I've had in a long time, because they had a whole case of these rocks that told exactly what they were and what they were used for. And after 40 years, I found out I bought this thing all over the United States. And I finally found out what it was for. And they had small ones up, some half again as big as this. Some, they were different, but all of them had the ring around them.
Well, now that one has two, looks like.
That
Yeah.
one, yeah, that one has
Yeah.
two rings, I think.
And
then on the back of it tells what
and
it
on the
is.
back, it tells what they're called a groove maul. And
That could do some damage, couldn't it, Nikki?
And they were used for breaking bones to get the marrow out, shaping bones, breaking rocks, driving tent stakes. It was their hammer, their go-to tool. And it was very common up there. We talked to one young lady, she didn't know what it was. She says, I picked up several of them out in the field when my dad was plowing. But she didn't know what it was. And
where was this that you were plowing?
pardon me?
In
Where?
North Dakota.
In North Dakota?
Yeah, that's in North Dakota. And everybody up there, man, it was common up there. But until we got to North Dakota, I never saw another one.
Where did you get your stuff?
It was given to us.
A friend of mine, we was living in Fort Worth, and he was a Choctaw out of Oklahoma, and he gave it to me.
Where he got it, I don't know.
He said that he had to temporarily stay in an apartment. He took his garbage down, and he said it was laying on the ground beside the dumpster.
Wow.
And he says, it's got to have some significance. He said, you know what it is? And I said, well, it looks like, it's got some indentations. I said, it looks like it's a hammer or used for beating her. He says, well, I'm going to give it to you, and one of these days you'll find out what it's for. So for 40 years, I've been trying to find out what it was.
What type of
did it
stone?
What is it,
Huh?
what is it done for? Now, what do you know? What did they know?
About it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What they knew about it was that they just call them a groove maul. It's on the back of that picture there, what it says about it. And they use them for, and some of them had like, they'd have like a stick or a pretty good size, and they had like sinew or something like that wrapped around that.
Groove, over the,
Yeah, around that groove.
uh-huh.
And then onto that stick. But this one seems to have some kind of indentations for, looks almost like a hand, but I don't know how you, unless they did it this way, you know, but I don't know why they would have that.
Maybe it was multi-purpose
But-
on that one.
Yeah. it's
But
a
in one of the
multi-purpose.
cases, they had one that looked exactly like this, same size, the color, everything. But the way the light was on the glass, I tried about 10 different ways and I could not get a picture of it. But anyway, that made my day finding out what that was.
Is that granite, or do you know what
That
the
looks
stone
like
is?
granite. It looks like granite.
Looks like granite.
Yeah.
That's what,
That's what most
That's hard.
there was a few that, in the museum that had some different coloring in it. But the vast majority we saw looked just like that.
You could never determine what it was used for?
Pardon?
You
No.
could never determine what it was used for?
You could probably go online and find out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It didn't have any, at
Yeah,
the
that-
end of it, any indications that it was used to drive anything or?
Yeah. Well,
No,
that-
it really didn't.
Well, it has one smooth side on the back of it, and they probably used that for hammering with, because it's sort of
Let's
beat
see how you
down.
use that for hammering.
Yeah, it said they used them for driving their tent stakes and.
Yeah.
Now, this
Okay.
looks like it was more used.
It had a handle on it at one time, it looked like,
Yes, had some, yeah.
with other
Uh-huh,
ditches.
I bet it did.
Oh.
And breaking bones and a little bit of everything.
Yeah, see this?
I've got something that's
This
similar. to
looks
that.
like it could have been,
Well, if it was if you used it for anything, heavy, it would have chipped it. It's kind of chipped too, but.
Where'd you get yours, Bill? Where did you get yours?
I don't remember covering that.
Kind of
Yeah,
shape.
asking you where you got this area.
That would keep it from.
Well, I can tell you pretty well where I got
I've
mine,
got a couple of 3/4.
because I didn't get them many
The
places.
groove goes around 3 sides, and then it's got a groove down here. And the stick tail shape went on there. But
Did you ever,
probably the L-shaped panel.
I've got one that's smaller than that. It's similar to
But
that.
I've never seen one that big.
No, I never have either.
They
That's the
had
reason.
some, they had them that was this big up there, and some even bigger.
I know it.
Did they have horses at the powwow?
The little-
Horses at the powwow?
Well,
That would have-
I imagine that was grooved out for that animal to go
Okay,
against.
okay,
keep it from
okay,
turning.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they
There it
had some,
is,
they showed
there it is, like
pictures.
that, you
Yeah.
see.
They
The
showed
Lakotas
pictures
are
of
coming out with a movie about the horses.
L-shape,
Deer skin or something.
Their
L-shape there and then tied.
relationship with
Yeah.
And that would
them.
keep it from
Yeah.
twisting.
I've got something that looks similar to this, that's the reason I was, but it is, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head this time.
Now, also at the museum, these are the principal tribes that reside in North Dakota. And okay. And it tells just a little bit about them. I got that from the museum. And it gives just a brief description. I think it's a Cheyenne. You got to go on the back to get the full. And
I bet it was what you
also,
said.
one of the highlights there at the museum, there was a Native American, I think she said she was Cheyenne. I really didn't understand, but I think she said she was Cheyenne. She was a cleaning lady working in there. And there was one section that showed Indian Sign Language. And I was looking at it, and she came over and she started doing this. And I looked, and she says, are you Indian? And I said, well, Cherokee. And I said, but I'm from way down south. I said, I'm not anywhere around this area. And she said, you don't know the Indian Sign Language? And I said, no, not really. She took me down and explained each one of these, and I took a picture, and she had me do this Indian Sign Language. It was really neat. I spent about 10 minutes with her, and she was really, I mean, she knew everything in that area. And like the sign language for chief is, you hold your right hand like this, raise it up over your head and just make an arc. And that's for chief. And buffalo is like that. And if you want, for making a trade or an exchange, you do this. In other words, we're going to trade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And anyway, these are all pretty well self-explanatory, but she was really interesting. I love that. Well, I can't say young girl, because she was probably as old as I was, which makes an antique, but I wasn't calling that.
You know,
But anyway, there's,
you said 74?
pardon me?
You said 74?
Yeah.
I feel sorry for you.
And,
I didn't tell him I was 10 years, nearly 10 years older.
and
He's just a pup.
He's
Yeah,
anyway, then we got back to the college about, I'm gonna say about 2 o'clock, because they'd already had the grand entry, but they had a lot of dancing and all going on. And they must have had 150 food booths and probably twice that many other booths of selling their jewelry, supplies, you name it, and you could buy it there. And so, anyway, we didn't catch much of the afternoon, but the evening, we stayed through about all of that. Man, the color was unreal.
And all this time, people are coming in, and coming in, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
just park
but-
everywhere, there's no,
Yeah,
open your-
we got back.
open your door and be in
And-
somebody's tent.
and I made the way over to our trailer and got the truck parked, and it wasn't even started till Monday morning. Because I could not get the truck out.
Just like where you went.
And by Friday evening, there was not a spot the size of one of these tables, I don't think, that didn't have a tent, a trailer, a pickup camper. Now, Stephen, he was Cheyenne from the Devil's Lake Reservation. I would guess him to be in his late 20s. Super fine
Said he was-
young man. Oh,
He told me he was 26 and his wife was 23.
okay. But they had a little boy, probably about 5 years old, and a little girl about 3 and a baby. And that little boy, every time I sat down, he'd run over and sit in my lap. He just loved me, and I just fell in love with him. And they had the tent set up right there at the back corner of our trailer. And he'd set his table up, and he'd make earrings and necklaces. And in fact, he made these earrings, Ellie's. Those are porcupine quills.
Yeah.
And he
That's one of
He
them.
was really an artist on using porcupine quills.
I noticed those when I saw her.
Yeah, I noticed them too.
And
He has, his secret, he said, of bending the porcupine quills, he holds them in his mouth to keep them moist and warm. And then he can bend them.
he'll have the white ones on one side, and he'll get several different colors and put on the other side, and he'll be talking, he'll drink, get him a drink, you know. And
Wouldn't
he got
hot
my-
water do the same?
Yeah, but that was more convenient if you would put them
Well,
in
I
your
guess it
mouth.
was.
Yeah, the back came full of hot water.
And it's looped.
It's loose.
Well, it's
They
not
smash,
really
they
He
flatten.
flattens them as he
flatten them?
winds them.
And,
So,
well, how about that?
so that was quite an
Flatten them
experience
and
right
twist
there.
them, and then he tucks
But
them.
by Friday evening,
Well, I bet they would love to
The-
see that round.
Yes.
in fact, the whole college ground was, I mean, it was packed. You couldn't have found a place for this table to sit. And they, across the road, there's a big field, and they mowed it, and it was filling up. There was a lot of it. For them people, the arena probably had to walk a half a mile. But that, I mean,
So together or whatever.
and then
He tucks them,
Saturday and Sunday,
flattens them.
you couldn't have stirred down people with the stick. I mean, you never saw so many people. There had to have been, I don't know how many thousand people. Well, they had over 1,600 dancers. And 3 or 4 times,
Cost a lot.
they
That's
had,
interesting how they.
after the grand entry, they would have, all the dancers got rated. They had to be in line at the grand entries. So at times you had 1,600 dancers out there, and they were packed. And she had all the regalia on, all the color. I mean,
With their mouth, women would,
Had her
I stand there and he said,
jingle.
well, I gotta go get her in line. They're
Take the
fixing to
gear
have the
out
grand
and
entrance.
the
About that
children.
time they started the drum.
make it
That little
soft.
baby started doing this, 4 months old. And I got the biggest kick. I said, Ellie said, I wonder if they do that before they're born.
If they're
But,
dancing
I mean, they had the rhythm. and-
Joe, did you see this?
at the powwow.
He's hot hearing, I guess.
Anyway, after the powwows Sunday evening, everything in, they had all the awards and in them books there, they tell what the different awards and all were, how many places on each dance and everything. And so we left Monday morning. Yeah, we left Monday morning
Right.
and went on over almost to the Montana border to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Then we worked our way down through Wyoming and ended up,
Friend.
actually our last stop was halfway between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Cachiti Navajo Pueblo Reservation. We spent 5 days there, camped on the lake, and had a great time. And from there, we left and came home.
Let me tell them something about this. On Sunday morning, they had a United Tribes International Powwow Sunday worship. And they had people that, you know, they had a speaker, and they had music. It says James Reed Tomahawk, and it was just beautiful morning in Fargo, or in Bismarck. I mean, it was just absolutely perfect. There was no wind, the sun was shining, it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. And we just walked around the campus there, and you could hear the music playing, and it was just beautiful, and I was,
Yeah, they had speakers, and you could hear it. I mean, it was really neat. And then from the Cachiti Pueblo Reservation, we came home. We got home on September 29th, and we left the end of August. We was home 5 days and took off again and got home on Halloween. But so far this year, well, last year, we was in 21 states and Canada, so we did a little traveling. But
You might want to tell them about this.
the weather, when we left, it was clear sky. And we never saw a cloud till we was, I mean, all the time, the whole month of September, we never saw a cloud until we was back this side of Amarillo coming home. And there was a rainstorm. We was in sunshine. And man, you could see the lightning and thunder. And we probably 100 miles this side of Amarillo. And you could see the rain. And we got down and it was moving north. And we got in. I never turned the windshield wipers on, but we got into some wet pavement there for about 10 miles. And that was it. Now, I checked with Eddie Duran before we left on the weather and all. And she says, well, now normally, she says, be sure and bring a jacket. Because she says our weather normally is about 70, 72 degrees, and says it gets chilly at night. And I says, okay, great. It was in the low to mid 80s every day. It was like 70 degrees, and I was wearing t-shirts. I mean, you could not ask for better weather. Okay. It was 82 degrees when we left Bismarck. The next day, they set an all-time record for September. Was 91 degrees. 2 days later, they had 14 inches of snow.
Oh my God.
You might want to tell them about this stuff too,
Yeah.
how we acquired that. What it is.
We were,
Bismarck.
yeah, Bismarck. In fact, we was on the way back from,
From the museum.
we passed the Walmart going in, and I needed something. So we swung around and come by Walmart, and there's a little roadside garage sale deal. And this lady had this stuff. She had some more stuff, but man, it was going like that. And the pipe hawk, she didn't have the card on it. The others have got the card, but they're, as close as I could find out, they were from an exhibition that was in 1979. And there's a,
You mean you got all this,
huh?
this trip?
Yeah,
If that don't be,
And we got this at a yard sale,
Yeah.
would you believe?
oh my goodness.
that,
We were just
Yeah.
happening to find
I get it. I don't know if anybody's written, well, I don't think I had it. Anyway, this ceremonial lamps is made out, it's got a bone point, it's made out of deer skin, rattlesnake skin, glass bead, brass beads, bell, horsehair, turkey feather, fox fur, and it's made by a Cheyenne Plains Indian named Tory. And the ceremonial lamps, they were part of the regalia of the warriors. They were decorated in symbolic colorings and markings which were significant to the owner. And they were symbols of power and authority, and sometimes carried into battle as a weapon because they had protective power for the owner. And they were also used as centerpieces in spiritual dances, and they were, if you had a ceremonial lamp, it was a status symbol. And you had to be a certain rank in order to have one. So I felt kind of good getting that one. Now the ceremonial bow and arrow, and this is exactly the way what I could find on the internet. This is exact what a ceremonial bow is, and it's got two arrows. The arrows are made out of, the points are made out of bone, and
Well, did they know what they had?
pardon?
Did they know what they had?
Yes,
So you carried
this
money
was-
with you?
this lady was selling this stuff, no,
Yeah.
she was selling it, she said it was her boyfriend, I don't know.
She said they was cleaning out her boyfriend's apartment. He'd had this stuff on the wall for years,
Wow.
and they just wanted to get rid of it.
Oh my gosh.
And I wish I'd have got there earlier.
I bet you do.
But anyway, this bow here, it's got deer skin, grass and brass beads, cones, and leather. And after a great hunt or a successful war party, a warrior may retire his bow with a couple of arrows as a ceremonial status symbolizing his success. And that's what this represents. And now the pike tomahawk, yeah, you can take that. It's got brass beads, deer skin, brass beads. I get that. Oh, a brass head.
Feel how heavy it is. It is awfully heavy.
And that's got beaver fur, bone, turkey feather, brass cone, horsehair.
It looks like a little, we figured maybe a dew claw from a fawn or something. I wasn't sure what that was.
Uh,
This is
And-
the horse hair and the turkey feather.
Now they, a brass head, deer skin, glass and brass beads and tacks, horsehair and turkey feathers and fur is what's required to be authentic. And that's got all that plus some. And this was made by the same Indian Cheyenne Tory.
What kind of hair is on it?
Well, we
That-
think
that's
it's
beaver.
Oh, it's beaver. Oh, it's beaver hair. Huh. How about that?
Well, I thought I never noticed all this bone and stuff on there before.
I bet you nearly swallowed your tongue when you saw all that for sale.
Huh?
I bet you nearly swallowed your tongue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked tonight.
He was over there buying before I even got on the car.
First thing I said,
I've never
are
seen
you,
that.
you are selling that, right? She said, yes. And I said,
Yeah, it had little
I
cards.
said, okay, I said,
Yeah.
now we gotta do some digging. And I said, how much
That's what,
are you
this is
charging?
what it's told about.
You see,
but-
you see stuff.
Oh, I don't know, she said, how much you did?
Yeah.
Because they were kind of.
Ricky, I think we got some pretty good price.
I bet you did.
Used to work
Well, now,
in
what is
co-op
this
gym.
on the
Oh, Les Brewer.
shaft here?
So this one here is called Frontier Trade
There,
Tomahawk.
it was big, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
It's a big
yeah, those
ring.
little glass
And
pieces.
he came across Bill
Well, I
Graham.
wish
There's
Linda,
a house
I
down there.
called
He showed
Linda.
me exactly where in the field.
Did he?
Yeah.
He found breastplate, and he found
And but they
skulls and
wasn't
things
there,
like that.
didn't
And
answer.
he and my uncle went up west
I
Sept
left
to
a
pick
message.
cotton, and when he came back, his mother put
I wish-
going
I wish
off,
they could
so I
see
know
that.
where he is.
In a way,
Well,
in a way, yeah.
Anyway, the bow and arrow,
But,
Yeah, I got him to go with me down there.
yeah,
okay. But what I was saying, that was more of Norseman or something like that.
yeah, the bow and arrow was made by a crow named
Because they
Tim.
just make brass stuff,
No, no,
but
no.
trade stuff.
And this one here,
Here, quiet.
she's not
They quiet,
made
they
that one that made,
Do you think
that
they
one
had
was
something
historic.
like that?
But she lost the tag off.
Yeah,
It's awful
She
complicated.
lost the tag off the back.
yeah.
I've seen the, the simple designs on it.
And this here's the trade, what they call a trade tomahawk. And, anyway, it's good.
A few years ago, I made one of those rattles, it's on a stick, it rattled, I put stuff on it too.
Yeah, I've looked at it.
Oh,
You can
okay.
draw through it.
It's heavy.
What now?
You can draw through it.
Oh,
It's
oh, okay.
it's a real pipe,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
That thing right there, you can,
It's a pipe.
it's a pipe and
Yeah, and a
where,
pipe.
where'd you put your
Tobacco?
tobacco? Oh, right there. Oh, I see it. I didn't know what that was for. Yeah.
Get hit over the head with
It is.
But how in the world did they put,
Anyway, it wasn't, yeah, this, when you got
And
travel
just set it
trailers,
apart.
most rest areas at the state lines have something like this, which is, shows the rest stops. When you pull a travel
he
trailer,
turned off it over
Yeah,
in
you look
his
for
grave,
these.
didn't he?
it. Yeah.
and a lot of the states now have, the, rest areas. Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota are great for having dump stations and all, accommodating travel trailers. A lot of the states now are really getting, but at one of the rest areas we went, they gave me this and said, you gotta have that. Says anybody with Texas plates has to love North Dakota.
Was it pretty dry up there?
Yeah, well, it hasn't been.
Oh, it
And
had been.
I have never seen
We were there,
the like of hay.
yeah.
And because of the snow, the fences are 150, 200 feet back from the road.
Oh, yeah.
So they hay the shoulders. And these big round bales, I got to come through Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota. And what was it, every 10th of a mile, there was 13, average 13 bales, every 10th of a mile. That was on the shoulder of the road, just on one side.
Wow. Well, how in the world would they, with all the stuff that is thrown out of windows, how could they,
You did not see that stuff up there.
No.
well, because they
The
put
shoulders
it
were
in bales, I guess.
until you got right in close to town.
Yeah, in the towns, out away from the towns,
Okay.
there's.
Now, at one point, I told Ellie, I says, I haven't seen a crossroad or anything. You know. We try not to take the freeways. We like
Oh,
to
yeah,
do
we
back
like to
country
get
and
off.
we like to see things.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was actually it was a US highway, but it was 2 lane out in the middle of nowhere. We went 38 miles till we came to a little town. We did not see a mailbox, a driveway, a crossroad. I mean, it was just fences, both sides of the road for 38 months. After I got to noticing, you know, we didn't even see houses. That was right when we first got into South Dakota coming back. But it'd been like that in North Dakota too. So.
What kind of grass was that?
But
What kind of grass was it that they,
I don't know what kind, but
probably
it's,
some blue stem or something?
but
It's long, you know, it's just.
they had some of the biggest equipment handling them bales. They had bales which were 8 foot square
Okay.
and
Big, big.
about 12 foot long.
Huh.
And I know there's 8 foot square because on these flatbed trucks, they went from one side to the other.
On the,
And they'd line them up and stack them up.
on the college.
And haul them up.
Imagine it's some kind
And you
of
never
blue
saw
stem.
so many, they had,
I used to call it
you could not look
buffalo
without
grass.
seeing the
What was his name?
stacks of hay the size of this building.
He's dead now, but
And, I mean, it was just like
he
forever.
married Elizabeth.
And they had these big tractors
What was his name?
that,
But he-
they'd grab these
he
big
built this
round
blue stem
bales,
that we used to
grab them
see.
by the ends, or grab them by the side, raise them up, and they was stacking them 4 high on end. And
You mean on end? You mean this way, not this way?
that, not laying down wrong, they were stacking them on end,
Wow.
and stacking them 4 high. And some of them had to be 300-400 yards long and maybe 100 yards wide. And you saw these big stacks of hay all over the place. They had the best hay crop. They had to have the best they've ever had.
Well, did they bale alfalfa up there too?
Yeah.
The fields?
And
Talk about the grass, on the campus, grass it was just beautiful green, and all these campers and trailers and tents everywhere. And when they left, the grass still looked good, it wasn't.
yeah, it was
But
weird.
still.
'Cause the grass was a beautiful dark green. I mean,
What kind it
and
was.
it had been mowed, but actually it was about this long. And it was almost soft as velvet. And they set up tents and everything. They took the tents down, and within a few hours, the grass was back like nobody had ever been there. And I don't have no idea what it was, but and it was just as green when they moved them tents. We got a pretty good view Monday morning because 95% of them is gone when we left.
Of course, they did generate a lot of trash.
Oh,
And they had big trucks that come and was picking up trash.
It's a miniature city though for.
Yes.
And they had a lot of security. They had 2 policemen on these Polaris Rangers. There would be a sheriff's car drive through, and they must have had a dozen of them Polarises with policemen. They were constantly, you couldn't go 5 minutes without seeing one. But every once in a while you'd see somebody in the back of a police car. But we never seen a commotion of any kind. People were very polite.
Yeah,
And
they were mostly families, and that's Stephen that we talked to, he said that a lot of them just followed the powwows, and that's how they made their living, just going from, selling jewelry, dancing, winning prizes, and that was their way of living. He says, My dad did that, and I do that.
A lot of people now does that, here.
Yeah.
They follow the,
We was gone, well, other than like a few days, being a month, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I bet
I
you.
just
We
wish
heard
we
about
could've
that
showed you
powwow
the
up there,
videos.
and we've been in 47 states now. We'd been in 46, but North Dakota was one, and we started 2-3 times. I said, we're going to that powwow, we're going to North Dakota. And it was worth it.
We'd like to go back, just, there's a lot in North Dakota to see other than,
Yeah, after we left, we got down to New Mexico, she's looking, she said, man, she said, we should have went and saw this, or we should have went and saw this. We could have seen this, we went right by it. And I said, well, we'll have to make another trip.
Yeah, it'll be another trip.
I think we need to nickname you two El Pasano, the Roadrunners.
People know we always, I mean, our middle boy, well, our youngest boy, he's 50. He had his first birthday and she'd taken the cushion out of the table there in the trailer and made his bed. And he had his first birthday in the Peninsula of Mexico. And our middle boy, who's 52, he's supposed to be at the house when we get home. He was 7 or 8 years old before he ever had a birthday at home. And, we've always traveled every chance we get. And I've had a lot of people saying, well, when are you going to see Paris or going to Spain? I said, when I see everything in the United States there is to see, then I'll
You
think
won't live
about
long
going there.
enough.
And I was telling her, she says, well, where are we going this summer? I said, I don't know. But we spent a total of about 6 weeks in southern Utah over 2 years. And I said, over by St. George, I said, we got to spend a week over there because I found out there's a lot of stuff over there we missed, you know?
Sure.
So,
There's a lot of stuff around here you've never seen.
yeah, that's true.
but anyway, that was pretty much our trip, and I'd give anything if I could have showed, and if we can find something, I'll bring that disc, because I've got pictures of the kids at the powwows, of the dancers, all the vivid colors, and the white buffalo, that's
Yeah,
I would
I'd love to see that.
I was really wanting that to, she said, we should have brought one of them laptops and at least we could have showed them on the laptop. I said, well, I thought maybe this would work and it didn't. Well, it works, I just don't know what it takes to do it.
What's going on
There's
for
a
next time?
sequence of,
Don't ask me, I have no idea what's going on.
Well, why can't they do it next time? And
Anybody got any questions or?
And somebody did this back here.
maybe we can.
If you know who the builder, who's going to run this?
Yeah, we'd have to
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, we need somebody to run that.
Bob Dieter can
So
run
maybe
it.
next time.
yeah, we could get him.
Joe Dan,
Bring a simple tabletop.
I'm gonna give you a job assignment.
You too?
Yeah, you learn how to operate that.
That's not on my job description
did,
list.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe, you bet.
But you know, one thing that I was thinking about while you were talking, about all the fences, all those miles of fences. Don't you know when everything was open and they started putting in fences, don't you know there was a lot of fences cut?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, don't you know?
And you could go for miles and there wasn't many cross fences. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and
Same
you'd,
range.
every once in a while you'd see a few cows here and a few cows there, and every once in a while a pretty good herd, but you might drive 20 miles and not see a living thing,
And
not even a hawk.
One thing I was disappointed in going across North Dakota, I never saw one pheasant. And we were looking for pheasants.
Yeah, we looked for pheasants
Well
in
known
North and
for
South
their-
Dakota and never saw them.
But you just wasn't
Kansas
there
and
at
North
the
Texas.
exact time,
That's
were you?
right, they all left.
I seen one there.
Well, if they would have been there early.